oh, no, 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 no. What are you doing? Do you know what show you're in? This is not that kind of show. You can't do that love stuff here. That is a death wish. You have no plot armor. Even the main character doesn't have plot armor. Both of you should stop unless you want to have a date in a body bag. Well, things are starting to ratchet up, and this episode wastes no time diving headfirst into major conflict. Cassian hops on Luthen's ship to head back to Coruscant. I love that the show takes a moment to let Luthen chuckle over Cassian's alias. Obviously, Cassian's picked up a few disguise tricks from Luthen over the years, and we get a hint of that in Rogue One, but now we get to see where it started. But the niceties don't last. Luthen asks Cassian about Gorman, and Cassian tells him don't get involved. Luthen questions that, saying Cassian's only been there 2 days and barely looked around. That perks up Cassian's ears, and Luthen admits that the Gorman front already contacted him. But, like I mentioned in the previous review, Luthen spies on everyone, so it might be that the Gormans contacted him, or it might be that he has other agents of Gorman monitoring the situation. Or both. That's pretty shady, but that's got nothing on what comes next. Cassian thinks the Gormans waited too long to act. They're not fighters, they're not ready, and everyone already knows what the Empire is doing, so what's the point? If the Gormans act, they'll be crushed. And Luthen's like, yeah. And it actually catches Cassian off guard. He didn't expect Luthen to go that far, but Luthen is thinking about the overall rebellion. Basically, he knows Gorman will fall. He's known that for a while. There's nothing they can do to stop it, but maybe Luthen can use it to bring more people to the rebellion cause because of Gorman's importance and wealth. In short, Luthen's willing to speed up the destruction of Gorman if it means helping the rebellion win. That's cold, but technically that is what rebellion looks like. Luthen is just thinking strategically. Something needs to be the catalyst to set off the broader rebellion. Gorman is right there. Sacrifices must be made. If not Gorman, it'll be somewhere else. But either way, the more important the location, the greater the chance more people will rebel. And the cost will be high. Millions of people will get hurt and die, but that's going to happen anyway. So from Luthen's perspective, why not use Gorman's destruction to their advantage? Again, that is really cold, but it is pragmatic. The question is whether it could have been prevented. Had the Gormans fought back sooner, could they have avoided their eventual downfall? Another question is whether Luthen knew that, but allowed the Gormans to hesitate so he could use their downfall to his advantage. I mean, like he says,
if it goes up in flames, it will burn very brightly.
The show's not clear about Luthen's overall plan for Gorman, and I think that just adds to the storytelling. Could he have prevented things from going this far but let it happen because he figured it could be the rallying cry for the rebellion? If so, that's dark. That is dark. But that's also what happens in rebellions, and it makes Luthen a way more complex character. Now, obviously, Cassian isn't happy about this, so he wants no part of the Gorman situation. But that's fine with Luthen because he has a backup plan. Mon Mothma's cousin, Vel Sartha. Vel is already on Gore, and hooks up with the Gorman front later that night. So now we know how Luthen knew things didn't go well. Like he says, he has friends everywhere. That's the kind of stuff that's going to make his allies hate Luthen, and it will definitely come back to bite him. For example, Cassian returns home to Bix, and he immediately starts making family plans, and I'm like, oh, no. We already know where this is going, don't make plans. That just makes it more difficult at the end of Rogue One. And they're really in love, too. That's just tragic. However, Bix tells Cassian about Luthen's visit, and Cassian is pissed. So pissed, he breaks protocol to confront Luthen at the shop. Luthen immediately creates a cover story, just assumes he's being spied on too, but doesn't hide what he did. When Cassian calls him out for talking to Bix, Luthen admits he hoped Bix wouldn't tell Cassian. In short, he kinda tried to play them against each other just to see who's more committed to the cause, because that's what Luthen truly cares about. It's all about the cause. He will sacrifice anything and anyone for the cause. I love that we get to see the different attitudes of people involved in the rebellion. It's not just about overthrowing the Empire. Everyone has their own reasons for fighting, and some are more committed to the ideals of rebellion than others. It's also interesting to contrast Luthen with Saw Gerrera. They're both ruthless and unwavering in their commitment to the cause, but they have completely different methods. Saul would have just killed Bix and Cassian and moved on. Luthen, however, tries to manipulate them into doing what he wants, so he's willing to compromise, to a degree. Cassian demands that if Luthen wants his full commitment, then Luthen must help him with Bix. Now, how could Luthen do that? Well, we get a hint when Lonnie Young and his colleague get put in charge of representing the ISB after Dr. Gorst gets a promotion and gets moved to Coruscant. Lonnie walks off, presumably to tell Luthen about the news. Speaking of Luthen, his operative Vel meets up with her girlfriend Cinta on Gorman, and I knew the moment they started reminiscing and throwing them glances, one of them gonna die. Like, what are you doing? Do you know what show you're in? This is not that kind of show. You can't do that love stuff here. That is a death wish. You are not protected. You have no plot armor. Even the main character doesn't have plot armor. You better stop staring at that woman. It doesn't matter which one of you do it. Both of you should stop unless you want to have a date in a body bag. And they do manage to stop long enough to put the Gorman front in check. They hook up with the Gormans and explain the plan. Follow our orders or the deal is off. When they mention that they'll be the only ones with weapons, one guy gets pissy about it, but Vel checks him.
Don't
what?
Don't talk. Don't think. Do as you are told. If you can't manage that, you don't belong here.
Another woman tries to argue with them again, and Vel is like, bitch, did I stutter? This only works if you follow orders. And then she makes them choose on the spot whether to do as they're told or leave. I love this scene because it shows one of the flaws of rebellions. That even though everyone's got the same goal, they're often disorganized. They still want to plan this heist, but everyone is still thinking about themselves. They're not thinking about working as a unit, about following a plan to the letter, or about having a backup plan. It's basically,
okay, let's do this.
In a rebellion fighting an enemy like the Empire, that'll probably result in them failing. If not immediately, then definitely down the line. You can't just wing it. There must be some order. This is what Cassian meant when he said the Gorman weren't ready. It wasn't just about their lack of experience, it was about their unwillingness to do what needs to be done, which is ironic because Luthen levies the same accusation against Cassian. But again, we're seeing how everyone's goals affect how much they commit to the cause. Unfortunately, some people only learn the hard way. For example, what are y'all doing? Didn't I say before that y'all better stop fooling around or you might wind up dead? Vel and Cinta still making them bedroom eyes. Girl, y'all better stop. You over here making plans and shit? I told you what happens with Cassian. You better quit. I mean, maybe as long as y'all don't shag, you might have a chance. Oh, never mind. So close. They were so close. Now, while both of them go down and the Gormans plan their heist, Mon Mothma gets the unfortunate pleasure of going to Davos Skulden's party. Previously, she could have ditched it, but now that her daughter and his son are married, they're family, so she has to go. But there's a really interesting drop of information the show just blazes by. There are more senators now than before. That's the first hint that the Emperor has started padding the Senate with sycophants and puppets. We get a taste of this at the Senate where one guy just glazes the Empire, and Mon Mothma has to stand there and listen. Meanwhile, Dedra and her boss, Leo Partagas, get ready for the heist on Gorman. Leo warns Dedra not to tell Cyril what the Gorman situation is really about, but the way he says it almost makes it sound like they will get rid of Cyril when this is all done. And Cyril still has no clue that they're playing him. The rest of the episode is a mix of Skulden's party and the heist. The editing for this is flawless. The tension just keeps building and building, and the way they pull this off is by, ironically, subverting expectations. You'd expect the heist to have major problems, since everybody's a noob. But no, the heist pretty much goes off without a hitch. They manage to stop the convoy and steal the weapons without any major issues. Now, part of that is that Dedra and Leo are deliberately holding back their forces, but had they not known about the heist, they probably wouldn't have had a chance of stopping it. The plan is damn near perfect. The trouble actually happens at the party. Mon and Luthen are there to view Skulden's collection. Meanwhile, Lonnie Young and his colleague are invited as well, and apparently there's a special guest coming from the Empire. Clea plans on using the party as a way to get the listening device from Skulden's art collection, but she needs a cover. So she picks Lonnie, and he realizes who she is and tries to refuse, and she's like,
This is not an option, nigga. If you do not smoke this, we have a problem.
She just straight up bullies him into being her cover. I love this show. I love every part of this. And while she's trying to get the device out of the art piece, the rest of them show up with Skulden, along with the special guest, Krennic. And it's good that he shows up because he spars with Mon Mothma, and that gives Clea more time because the listening device gets stuck. Lonnie tries to back out again and she grabs him like,
Is Wayne Brady gonna have to choke a bitch?
Again, I love every part of this scene. It's just awesome. And the whole time she's rattling off this history of the art piece just in case Alana gets asked about it. So not only is she punking him, she's making him prepare for a pop quiz. Back to Krennic and Mon Mothma, they argue over the tactics of fighting for and against rebellions. The thing that stood out to me is that Mon doesn't really try to hide her sympathies in a debate. She's careful not to side with the rebellion against the Empire, but she's perfectly happy to call out the brutality that leads to rebellions and resistance. And when Krennic brings up some rebels using extreme violence, Mon says this.
They had their own code of conduct.
Ah, my rebel is your terrorist.
Technically, that's true. Much of how rebellions get viewed is based on who wins, because those are the people who usually get to shape the historical narrative. However, Krennic was also right in saying this.
Criminals love to lie. After all, who wants to die for lawless ineptitude?
The point is that rebellions can be framed any number of ways, even if both sides engage in the same level of violence. I think the element missing from Krennic's argument is present in Mon Mothma's, which is why they're fighting. As Mon Mothma says,
You seem fixated on defining people by their resistance to power.
the Empire can't justify its actions because they're only trying to gain and maintain power. The rebels, on the other hand, while violent, are fighting against the abuse of that power. That doesn't justify every act they commit, but it does make their reasoning more understandable and in many cases defensible. Anyway, that little argument gives Clea the time she needs to remove the listening device, so in the end, everything went as planned. Unfortunately, the same can't be said about the Gorman heist. Everything goes well until an old woman tries to walk through the area where the convoy got stopped. One of the Gormans leads her away, and as the rest of the team finishes up, they notice she's missing and go looking for her, including Cinta. Then the guy who wanted the gun bumps into one of the dudes from the meeting, and when he tries to shoot a dude away, the dude forces his way past him, so the guy pulls the gun Bell told him not to bring, and the other dude is like, bitch please, and just casually tries to take it away. In the struggle, if you can call it that, a single bolt fires, and it hits Cinta. Told you. I knew it was going to happen. I could feel it the moment these two locked eyes. There was no way they were both making it out of this alive. Cyril reports the shot and Partagaz sends in his force. The Gormans escape, but the damage has already been done. The guy with the gun cries over it, and Bell just destroys him. I thought this was an excellent story choice. I didn't want to see Cinta die, but I think having her die such a needless, pointless death takes away some of the glamour of the rebellion that we saw in the films. It makes it feel more real. Cinta didn't die heroically. She died by accident, by something easy to avoid had the guy just followed orders. Those types of things happen in war, sometimes from your own side. And unlike the movies, we don't move past this. We have to sit with it and see the impact up front. We also get to see the long-term impact it has on these characters. We're going to come back to them after another time jump and see what this has done to them. The episode wraps with Luthen fulfilling Cassian's request for him to help with Bix by helping her break into an Imperial office belonging to Dr. Gorst. She puts him in his own device, turns it to the max, and just leaves him to his fate. She meets up with Cassian, and as they walk away, they blow up the office. Bix finally got her revenge, although I was surprised they did it so quickly. Gorst tortured her for hours. You'd think they let him sit for a while, but I guess not. Either way, this was a damn good episode, and it only gets better from here. Honestly, I don't know how Disney can top this series. Nothing else they've done is on this level. How in the world are they going to follow this? Because if it's a film about Rey Palpatine, they might want to go back to the drawing board. But what do I know? I'm just some guy.